Today we're having a conversation about authenticity, which has been a bit of a drinking game this year. We heard it a little in the last session, and so today I'm going to turn the conversation a little bit more to community. So in the last talk, it was kind of like a little bit of a master class around what to do with personalization and each role. And so with this panel, I hope to uncover a little bit more of those practical pieces of how you engage with community authentically. And so I want to open it up, have each of you introduce yourself again, so what a little bit of your focus is, and then we'll dive in. Vivian?
Hey everyone, happy to be here. I'm Vivian Chang. I am VP of Ecommerce at GNC. So supplement specialty retailer in the wellness space. I recently joined, so before this I was at Clorox, so helped stand up the direct-to-consumer capability, ran that for 5 years, and so I will give you some examples from both those spots pertaining to it.
Hi, I'm Justin Soffer, CMO of Tiff Streets. Tiff Streets is a warm cookie delivery. In fact, if anyone wants to experience it, I have some cards here for free delivery. The first question I got asked was, did you bring cookies? I didn't, but I brought cards for cookies, so almost just as good. I've been in a bunch of different marketing roles. I work for travel, e-commerce, media, finance. But this is my first time working for a physical product, which is really fun. It's a lot easier. Anyone who wants to go into the physical world of marketing, it's a lot better than doing virtual goods and services type of thing. So, and I've been in the role just for about 6 months now.
Hi, y'all. I'm Drew Martin, Executive Senior Associate Place Director for External Affairs, which is just a long way to say that me and my team engage with the public across the board, whether it's ticket sales, services, operations, marketing, trademark licensing, merchandising, sponsorships, and it interacts with the public fan base. That's in our shop. So here at the University of Texas, welcome. Glad to have you all on campus. Glad to have you in the Coach Elliott, it's great to see you.
Thank you, guys. I find it to be fun that we have 2 natives from Austin, 2 transplants to Texas. But we also have a little bit of a unique situation with UT in that we have someone from UT here, as well as a brand with Tiff Streets that was born here on campus. So I'm really excited to be able to shape the conversation and be a little bit more relevant to Austin and Texas. But I want to ask each of you, what does authenticity mean to you, just as a human?
Great question. I think it's just being real, right? And I think what's really relevant as like executives today is that everyday consumers can see through the facade and they won't put up with that. So I think it really is. I think what's interesting in a good way with authenticity is that the conversation has to be like, are we actually doing the right thing for the consumers in the product formulations, in the messaging to go out, and the testing that's done, all of that, because it all matters now to the really savvy consumers.
Yeah, I think if there's a parallel between what we discuss internally, like in our boardroom, and what we put out externally, then we feel like we're being authentic, and there's a lot of, transparency and directness to the consumer as well. So that's really what I focus on.
Yeah, I think for me, when I think about authenticity, it's one of the things that I enjoy about working in the collegiate space, right? Is that there's so much tradition, there's so much history, there's so much affinity from alumni, from the fans in the area. Being a flagship institution in the state of Texas, we represent the state of Texas and constituents from border to border. And so we talk a lot about what does that mean to be authentic. We've got to be authentic to ourselves. We've got to service our fan base and uphold the traditions that they come to expect. Orange, white, Evo, Hook'em, all of those traditions at Texas. So we have to express that authentically every single event, every single time out of the game. It would be very, very unusual. Our athletic director, Crystal Conte, who, by the way, if you don't follow him on social media, you should, because he is the absolute poster child for authenticity. Typos and all. It's really believe, one of his trademarks is at UT, and Coach Elliott knows this very well. We keep picking on you because I love you to see you there. But Coach Elliott knows this very well. Our colors are orange and white. We don't chase gimmicks. We don't come out in candied up uniform. We're not going to chase a trend to wear this color or that color because it's fashionable. That's who we are. That's authentically Texas, and we're the only school in the country to be orange and white. We're the only school in the country with a 2,000-pound mascot named Bevo. We're the only Longhorns that are out there, so we're going to stay true to that. But then we take it a step further when we talk about fan engagement. And again, it's something we're really, really fortunate to be in the city, a booming metropolis like Austin, right? President Hartzell talks a lot about differentiators, right? When he's talking about admissions and enrollment and all these things, what differentiates the University of Texas from other institutions? We can say our academic prowess, our academic caliber. That's true. And there's also an Ivy League. They can say the same thing. We can talk about athletic performance, and athletic prowess, and athletic excellence. And we've won 3 of the last 4 directors' cups for the best collegiate athletics department in the country across the board. Well, Stanford could also say that 30 some odd times until we took that title away from them, right? So we're not the only athletically elite program out there. But then you add in the city of Austin, and when you have academic excellence, athletic excellence, and a city that's booming and on the precipice of greatness like the city of Austin, that is the differentiator of marrying those 3 things together and separates the University of Texas at Austin from any other institution that's out there. So when we got to work, when we got here in 2018 and looked at what is a fan engagement, what is a fan experience, what is community engagement, and for us that's really talking to how we're engaging our constituent bases, whether you're a Texas X, a current student, parent, a fan, whatever that happens to mean, or even a resident city of Austin. How can we be authentically Austin when you come to a football game? We ask our fans to come and spend not just their money to buy a ticket or concessions or merchandise. We're literally asking them to spend their time with us as well. We want you to come on campus as soon as the lots open at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. Stay with us through the game, the games at 9 games. Stay with us all day. So when we looked at what does it mean to come to Austin and spend a weekend here and spend literally your entire Saturday, how can we be authentic to the city of Austin and work with our partners at Visit Austin, the Arts and Sports Commission, to really identify what does a trip to Austin mean. This is a wonderful city based on outdoor activities. We've got a wonderful thing here called the Con Street Festival. We took that idea and we said, okay, let's make Bevo Boulevard. Let's deliver that authentic outdoor festival atmosphere at a football game day and give you a reason to be here before the game. We're also the live music capital of the world. Easy, low-hanging fruit right there. We partner with C3 Presents, great, awesome supporters of Texas athletics. And we developed Longhorn City Limits based off our Austin City Limits Music Festival. Right? So we have a live concert every game before the football game starts. Or in the case of the 11 a.m. kickoff, we had Rick Springfield that game that was fantastic. 75 years old, took his shirt off, Jesse's girl, performed it, jumped off stage, walked up the hill. It was an amazing show. You got to see it, you got to see a real treat. But that's authentically Austin. The next year we come back and we saw something in the fabric of Texas football that we hadn't really got to experience. It was our first year here. And it's the All-State Red River rivalry up in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas during the State Fair. Imagine a football game in Fair Park in the State Fair of Texas. They told us they get about 150,000 on a regular Saturday. We had 95,000 more people there. It's 250,000 people watching a football game or in a football game atmosphere. And we looked at the demographic and said, okay, we can half that stadium. That's 45,000, 46,000 tickets. We seat 101. We put 103 in here on Saturday. Half our fans can't go to that game and experience the State Fair of Texas. So while it's not authentically part of Austin, it is authentically Texas. The State Fair of Texas is part of being a Texan. We brought Smokies Midway, which takes this entire north to Lost Dodds Way, and we have a 45-foot Ferris wheel. We've got zip lines, we have corny dogs and snow cones and cotton candy. The carnival games, a little whack-a-mole. Everybody wins a free prize. Also, keep in mind, all of this is free. You don't have to have a ticket to the game. You don't have to have a parking pass. You don't have to buy anything. We do sell food and beverage out here. That's about merchandise as well. But it's free to come and be a part of this because, again, we're the flagship institution of the state of Texas. We represent all citizens of the state of Texas right here in the game. So we're delivering that experience to you for free. We come back the next year, we think food trucks and beer halls. We develop Welcome Hangout with a dozen food trucks, a giant big beer, cold tap brew, craft cocktails, craft right there in Winship Circle. And then this past season, we added our fifth element to the game day atmosphere all outside. And it's Big Birds of Bazaar. It's the idea of coming to Austin and shopping, South Congress shops, the Domain, all that. How do we bring all that in a curated style to a football game day? So you can literally come to a football game at UT and get every brand promise authentically that the city of Austin guarantees you. That goes back to who we are as an institution with academic excellence, athletic excellence, and an Austin vibe. So that to us is how we approach being authentically who we are, and authenticity to our community.
I mean, you have people who bleed orange. I didn't go to school here, but I do. And I walk around saying Hookham. So, I mean, it was a pretty solid program that you guys have built.
And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and people have fun during the process. I think as a brand marketer, either of you would be like, yeah, I want that. I want my clients, my customers, my loyalists to bleed for me. I think one of the things that was most interesting about what Drew shared was that it's this kind of idea of the experience. The experience is what matters, and that's where you experience the authenticity. Justin, Tiff's Treats being about warm cookies. That's not an easy brand promise to deliver, like, as a baseline. But beyond that brand promise, which you're like, okay, I can build tech or capabilities to do that, how do you ensure that the customers feel like this is a special experience? Like, what are you guys doing to make that a part of that experience?
Well, the good thing is that we're kind of just like the mechanism to share the love between typically two people, because it's oftentimes a gift product. So we have the warm cookies, and they're kind of like the canvas for, again, the message that's being shared. So if I'm sending you a birthday gift, or baby's born, or someone wants to share just a thank you, whatever. So like we're kind of the facilitators of the message in a certain way, and we're lucky in that sense, and that so much of it is related to gifting that it's like a positive experience for most people when they receive Tiff Treats, and it's also a positive experience to gift Tiff Treats. So what we want to do is kind of harness that as best as we can without sort of getting too much in the way of it, honestly, and facilitate that kind of connection between those two people. That's probably the main focus. The other nice thing for us is that in many of the markets that we operate in, including Austin, we have our own delivery cars and drivers. So unlike a lot of other services where delivery comes from a third party like Uber or DoorDash, often, which we do partner with as well, oftentimes we're actually delivering the product ourselves and the warm cookies, so we can really own that whole kind of experience with the customer. Sometimes customers have asked us to like open the message and sing it to them, and our drivers have obliged to do that. Sometimes drivers will like have long conversations with the person they're delivering to, and then even like send a follow-up note because maybe they're delivering to someone who had a sick parent or something else happened in their family, and really should be like try to be authentically caring about that delivery and that experience, that human connection. So it's something that we really focus on. But again, like it's something that we don't want to kind of do artificially. We want to kind of facilitate it, but it's not something that we can force too much.
Yeah, I have to admit, when I see a blue and white wrapped car going down my street, I'm hoping that it's going to my house. It's not always the case.
It's actually harder to do that in markets where we don't actually have those cars, and there are markets now where we don't have stores. We actually just are virtual in certain markets now, and so that's a harder experience, and a lot of that has to be turned to a digital kind of experience. We show a lot of that digital.
That was actually my follow-up question there. It's like, so in thinking marketing, thinking about your overarching strategy, a little bit easier when you have that touch of physical space or drivers. How does this expansion to other markets influence your marketing, your programming, how you're building communities there? Like, what is, if you have a little nugget to share, like how are you kind of tweaking that strategy?
Yeah, well, again, kind of leaning into the gifting thing. It's interesting is that, for instance, like 6 weeks ago, we launched in Kansas City, no physical locations, no trucks on the road, no presence there physically. The way we launched a new market is we actually tap into our Texas fans and say, hey, do you know someone in Kansas City? Would you like to send them a box of cookies for free on us? And we actually pay for it. And so the cookies come from someone in Austin who's a fan of the brand, sending it to their friend in Kansas City. It's the best introduction for us to the brand. I mean, it's one thing for us to go to Kansas City and say we're amazing and drop off cookies at someone's house. It's another thing Austin or in Dallas or in Houston or a place where you have an established presence and a strong brand to send those cookies to the friend or family member in another place. So we really leverage that strategy quite a bit. And the good thing is that cookies are relatively inexpensive. In fact, I brought 60 cards for anyone who wants some free box.
If you haven't had one, you gotta get a card.
But anyway, it's a good introduction to the brand, especially if you get introduced by someone else.
I love that. Super smart. Very smart strategy. So, Vivian, GNC is a bit of a different beast, right? Not born here in Texas, even if you were. Talk to us a little bit about kind of the revitalization and some of your mandate and change with regards to how you approach developing communities and what the different types of customers you guys have are to inform.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are common threads we can take from those. So GNC, I know if you think about the history, it's a company that's been around for 90 years. Most of us who are a little bit older remember GNCs everywhere, right? Like in the malls, in the strip center. And so generally, everyone knows what GNC is, but you probably haven't thought about them recently, right? And it's because as a brand, it really hasn't stood for anything, and it hasn't really shown up in a big way in a long time. And so really what we're trying to do now is just be a part of the conversation. So that's really like step one. So doing it both in kind of a physical experience, but also a digital experience. And so actually very recently, a couple months ago, we've put up some billboards. GNC's headquartered in Pittsburgh, so some of them are in Pittsburgh. But they're a little bit edgy, and it's a little bit uncomfortable for the teams to go with it. So you've got 9 years old, and we can still get it up. We've got from dad bod to daddy. There's a lot. You can go to Instagram and look at them. And what's interesting about it is that these are ads, right? But getting so much conversation online. Actually, people are telling employees, like, hey, I saw that, I talked about it with my friends, right? And so I think it's a twist on the idea of like building community that can start to integrate the digital and the physical, and it really is just being part of the conversation. I think I really love what you saw the drivers kind of have that autonomy, right, for how to represent the brand, how to show up, and that's what we're also working through. We call our store associates coaches, because why do we go into a specialty retail space when you could go buy vitamins on Amazon, in Walmart, Target? That's generally because you want advice and you want to know, hey, like, what is the actual consistency? If I were to dissolve this protein powder versus another one, make recommendations of, hey, if you're taking this medication, avoid these other items, right? That's what we want. What's the expertise? Are you tailoring and personalizing it to me? And so a lot of what we're talking about is how do we leverage the coaches in all of the locations across the United States to build their own almost micro community and give them the autonomy to show up, right? Is it Little League games, or is it we're partnering with schools or nonprofit organizations, and have a lot of leeway for how that can come to life. Those are the things that we're trying to figure out, and we'll test into it. But I think it really is one, just being fun, to break through in any kind of community. It has to be worth the time, right? And then being a source of trust, leading to that authentic community.
I think you literally teased the term trust. I think that as a brand, that can be one of the hardest things to do. And we talked a little earlier today about some of the things that you guys are doing in personalizing campaigns. Health and wellness as a category, pretty challenging. Do you have any stories to share, based on what you're doing in the specific communities to build that trust?
Yeah, I think different. I thought it was really interesting to listen to Polly earlier, because they have a single product, right? And works for a lot of people. With GNC, you have thousands of SKUs, and it kind of works for everyone. You could be someone who's a bodybuilder, who's looking to bulk up, and someone who just wants healthy aging, maybe better sleep. And then there's just like, what are the everyday things that I should be taking that I don't know about? And so we're really going after the idea of like micro communities and tailoring products, having different kinds of messaging. And again, this spans both like digital and physical. In our campaigns, we're making sure that we're being very pointed, very specific, and then you can have hundreds or thousands of them online, right? And not being choiceful about where we actually choose to have in-person activations to pair with that. But at the end of the day, it has to be real. So we have scientists and nutritionists on staff, and it's really like putting the camera in front of them, and they are the voice of that expertise because they have true credibility. And so I think that's the other really important piece of us in building that trust.
That's super interesting, especially with the idea of saying we have our own experts that are going to be the coaches and turn into something more meaningful. Drew, when I think about this idea of being super focused and personalized, obviously you have a student community. You have the community of former students and then their families like me. How are you using that as a means to be able to build a brand further? Like, how do you think about the maybe non-traditional things that you're trying to build, the ones that didn't necessarily go to UT in building the brand? Is that a component of your focus? When you're thinking of these live events, like, I want all Austinites to bleed orange, or what is that? How does that fit into your group?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting concept. We talked a lot about that coming into Texas, and borrowed a page of the playbook when Chris and I were both at TCU for 6 years prior to coming to UT, and kind of used the same philosophy of, the city of Fort Worth was growing at the time. TCU is a very small private school. And so how could we approach, your basic persona of a sports fan, of a football fan? We know there's a lot of University of Texas alumni that live in Fort Worth, a lot of Texas A&M alumni from around the country. How can we approach them and say, hey, we want to foster a relationship. We know you bleed orange, you bleed maroon, you bleed, any other color, red and black for Texas Tech and all that. But when we're not playing you, we offer you a brand proposition to come and watch really, really good high-end football, or any sport across the board. Come and be a home frog, and I get it, when we're playing your team, you're playing on the other side, but the other 364 days of the year, we would like your support. Not quite faced with the same challenge in UT. We've got over 500,000 alumni, we've got a large student population, a large familial population attached to it, but Austin is continuing to be the #1 city for recent graduates to relocate to. So it's kind of the same conversation. Yes, you just graduated from Michigan, but you live in Austin now, and we're not Michigan, but we are pretty good. We're beat Michigan earlier this year. Why don't you try? Why don't you try that? But that goes back to what I was describing before, that authenticity to being part of the city of Austin, of come onto campus. You may not have a team in the game. Come and experience it. And our hope is that you will come in the game and experience our brand, our true burn orange and white brand we have to offer, and then realize that across the board, we're not only excellent in football, which gets a lot of attention, I understand that. We're excellent in 21 sports that we field. We win national championships across the board. We win conference. Soccer just won their first ever. We're in the SEC for the first year. Soccer came home with the SEC tournament title, the first, tournament that we've been a part of the SEC that we participated in, we won it. And so we're good across the board. Come and experience those things you might have enjoyed when you were at Florida State, or you were at Cal, or you graduated from wherever, and you like sports. Come and experience that with us. And then, I want to touch on that trust, piece of it as well. We also, after every event, we will take our ticket scan data and we'll come back and we'll offer a survey. And we'll always, we're gauging various metrics and certainly the Net Promoter Score for sure. But at the end of it, what are your comments? Were there any issues? Were they good? Were they bad? And we'll take that triage every single sport had an issue with customer service at a concession stand, or your seat was broken, you had a facility issue, you had a special need issue, you had anything like that, we will divide that out and place personal phone calls and emails within 72 hours after the conclusion of that event, so that you do get the idea that we're not just selling you an entertainment ticket. We want to develop a relationship. We want to listen to it. What's the ad? Nobody cares how much you know until you know they know how much you care. That's exactly what's governing our principles here. Is we may not have had a relationship naturally through either being a student, a former student, or a family member of a former student. You might have come from the outside, but we want to get to know you. We want you to know that you can invest your time and money into University of Texas while you're in Austin.
I mean, you just set up my next question, like, basically, just going to the last question. Perfectly. In terms of how do you measure fan engagement? How do you measure the authentic connection with communities? Justin, you said something about that kind of resonated with me. It may not relate to this question, but that idea of saying what happens in the boardroom translates to the customer experience, that's a little baffling for me, just because so many boardrooms don't match. So we'll leave that on the side. But how are you guys measuring success? And does it start at the top? Does it start with that boardroom conversation into what you're doing tactically within marketing?
I mean, we have typical, I would say, success metrics for all these things. So it would be a combination of, sales and market, new customers, social engagement, commentary, brand awareness, promoter score, things like that. So I mean, it's not a great, unique answer for that, other than sort of more typical metrics that we're looking at. For those things from a community standpoint, it's really while we don't from a patent and trademark standpoint want our brand to become a verb, having a brand become a verb is a good thing, obviously. If someone's, it's so ingrained in the act of gifting that they're calling it until, not that we don't say this, please don't say this, but Tiff, you gift, it's such a part of normalcy for someone's birthday that you would gift Tiff's treats. That's part of the community like that. That's what we're attaining. It's hard to measure that type of thing, but that's what we're looking for.
How about you, Vivian? Is there anything that you're doing, especially as you're testing new waters, like getting the approval to have still get it up at 70 or whatever that number was? That's not easy to do. So what are you guys doing to look at measurement and success metrics for some of these initiatives where you're pushing that?
Yeah, I think some of it sure is looking at those core KPIs on the brand side, reach and impressions and all of that. I'm a believer of marketing is both art and science, right? So sure, we look at the numbers, but there's always the balance of your measurable activities and your halo of things that are a little bit more intangible. And so a lot of us, what we're thinking about is just breakthrough. And so is there an emotional resonance? Are we showing up in a fun way? Are we in the conversations? Those are all leading indicators, regardless if we have a true measurement of, hey, now we're in people's minds, and you can then move down the funnel of, here's the science, and so here's where we're reliable, and then, are people actually buying and look at attribution and the data part of it. But I mean, a lot of it is just, as a consumer, what is going to make a difference to me? A lot of ways is a playbook. I think on the flip side is looking at brands outside the category that are doing well. So I look to Alpha Beauty a lot because
The crush.
the idea of community. I think and it's not a physical community, but you ask loyalists and the content creators, the micro-influencers, if they feel like they're in the community of Alpha Beauty, and 100%. Right? So to us, that's a playbook of it. It's they are listening, they're responding, they're allowing that freedom, and then you actually see it in the products that they release and the way they show up. And I think that to me is also a masterclass of how you build community in this digital world.
Yeah, it's a very different world than we used to be. And to have an e-commerce marketer thinking about brand and talking about brand, leads to performance, I think is a testament to how our initiatives evolved, because we seem to run one way or another. So thank you guys so much for the time. I think we're at time. Yeah, so I really appreciate each of you joining. Thank you guys for all being here.